If you ever work night shifts, you'll know there's a certain kind of quiet that just doesn't feel natural. It's not the peaceful kind, like when you're home and everyone's asleep. It's heavier, like the building itself is breathing when no one's around to notice. That's what working nights at the university was like for me. I was a janitor, technically facilities custodian, if you looked at my badge. Mostly, it meant I cleaned empty lecture halls and locked up the older academic buildings after hours. Places that barely saw foot traffic even during the day. It wasn't glamorous, but it paid the bills, and honestly, I liked the solitude. Until that night. It was a Thursday. I remember because I always did Ridley Hall on Thursdays, one of the oldest buildings on campus. Tall ceilings, heavy wood doors, classrooms that still had chalkboards instead of smart screens. A maze of corridors and half-abandoned offices. I started my sweep around 8. Just me, my keys, my cart, and my Bluetooth speaker playing some old rock to keep me company. The building was supposed to be empty. I was wiping down a row of desks in room 202 when I noticed him. This kid sitting in the back row. Hoodie pulled up, hunched over his phone. Looked like any other student pulling a late night. I gave him a nod, didn't think much of it. Happens sometimes. Someone forgets a bag, sneaks in to cram for a test, whatever. I figured I'd finish my side of the building first, then politely kick him out before I locked up. No big deal, so I kept working. The thing was, every time I peeked back into 202, he was still there. Same spot, same posture, barely moved. If anything, it looked like he was just sitting, not studying, not scrolling, just sitting. But again, college kids are weird. Maybe he was taking a break. Maybe he didn't want to go back to his dorm yet. I wasn't about to start grilling him. Around 10:30, I finished the first and second floors. Only a few more rooms left on the third. When I came back to 202 to tell the kid it was time to go, the room was empty. No backpack. No books, no kid. The weird part, I never heard the door open. No footsteps, nothing. He was just gone. Figured maybe he slipped out when I was in another room. Whatever, I wasn't gonna chase ghosts. I locked up 202, shut down the lights floor by floor, and finally made my way back down to the lobby, where the main doors were. That's when I heard it. A slam, loud, echoing down the hallway. Followed by another, and another. I froze. It was coming from upstairs, the floor I had just cleared. At first, I thought maybe it was the old heating system. Sometimes the pipes would knock when it got cold. But these were doors. Heavy ones, slamming shut, over and over. I grabbed my walkie and called it in standard procedure. Told security I heard some movement. Might be a student still inside. No answer. That's when the walkie crackled. Just static, loud and broken. I tried again. Nothing. Now my hands were sweating. I wasn't a small guy, but that building felt huge and empty all of a sudden. Every instinct I had was screaming to get out. But if it really was a student, it was technically my job to make sure no one was left inside before locking up. I grabbed my flashlight, swallowed down the dread, and headed back up. Second floor, nothing. Third floor, the doors I'd locked, a few were wide open now, some swinging slightly, like they'd just been pushed. No kid in sight. I stood there for a long second, listening. Nothing. No footsteps, no breathing, just that heavy, suffocating quiet. That's when I noticed room 202's door was open again. I hadn't left it like that. I know I hadn't. Slowly, I crossed the hallway, every creak of the floorboards under my boots making me wince. When I reached the doorway, I swung the flashlight around the room. Empty desks, chalk dust in the air, and in the far corner, near the emergency exit door, a backpack. Old, dirty, looked like it had been sitting there a while. I should have left right then. I knew it, but I moved closer, shining my light into the open backpack. Inside, a few granola bars, crumpled water bottles, a ratty sleeping bag shoved tight, and taped to the back wall behind a loose panel, a map of the building, marked up routes, X's over certain lecture halls. circles around maintenance closets and side exits. My stomach twisted. This kid hadn't been studying. He'd been living in here. I backed away fast, heading straight for the lobby. No way was I sticking around to find out if he was still lurking in some crawl space. I locked the doors, radioed security again, this time practically shouting into the walkie. Still static. I sprinted across campus to the main security office and found the night guard. An older guy named Bruce, half asleep at his desk. Told him everything, breathless. To his credit, he didn't laugh. He called the campus police immediately. Next morning, they found signs of forced entry, lock picks, pry marks around the doors. Some of the maintenance tunnels had been rigged with makeshift locks from the inside, meaning whoever it was had been camping out in different parts of Ridley Hall for days, maybe weeks. They never caught the guy. No security cameras inside the building. No fingerprints they could match. Just that backpack full of supplies and that map. Rumor is a few professors had been reporting small things missing for weeks. Office supplies, coffee from their desks, a jacket here and there, little things, until it wasn't so little anymore. I quit the night shift a month later, took a day position in a different department. Couldn't shake the feeling that every time I turned my back, someone might be watching. If you ask me, universities aren't haunted by ghosts. They're haunted by people, and that's a hell of a lot worse. You hear a lot of weird stuff when you work nights. People always think it's the graveyard shift workers who are half asleep, imagining things. But the truth is, once the world gets quiet, you start noticing the things that don't fit. And some nights, it's not your imagination at all. That's what happened to me last fall, when I was closing up at Millstone Coffee. I'd been working there for about a year. It wasn't a big place. Small shop, tucked between a pharmacy and a law office in a sleepy strip mall. We closed at 9, and by the time I wiped down all the tables, counted the till, and locked the front doors, it was usually close to 10. Most nights were boring, peaceful even, but that night was different. It was about 10:15. I was in the back, sweeping around the prep sink, when I heard a knock on the rear door, which was weird. Nobody ever used that door except us employees and the occasional supply drop-off, and deliveries always happened during the day. I froze for a second, broom in hand, just staring at the door. Another knock, a little louder, and then a voice, kind of muffled but friendly enough, called out that he had a late package for the shop. Said he was sorry for the hour, something about running behind and needing a signature. At first, I thought maybe the owner had ordered something and forgot to mention it. We did sometimes get last-minute shipments around the holidays. Still, I hesitated. There was a little square window at the top of the door, too high for me to see through. So I crept closer and called out, asking who the package was for. The guy answered quick, a little too quick. He just said, "It's a delivery for the coffee shop." No name, no mention of what it was. That was the first red flag. Still, stupidly, I thought maybe he just didn't know. Maybe it was legit. So I unlocked the first bolt but kept the chain on, cracked the door open maybe 2 inches. That's when I saw him, and when I knew something was wrong. There was no box, no envelope, nothing in his hands. He was wearing a delivery jacket, but no company logo, no badge. Just a generic blue jacket, a little too clean, a little too fake. I glanced over his shoulder, no truck. The parking lot behind the shop was completely empty except for my car. And while I was taking all that in, he smiled real wide and leaned forward, pressing the toe of his boot against the doorframe, trying to wedge it open wider. Said something like, "Come on, it'll only take a second. It's freezing out here." His voice was still casual, but there was this edge under it. Like he was used to getting his way. Like he was expecting me to just let him in. I shoved the door closed so fast it nearly caught his foot. He tried to push back for a second. Nothing dramatic, just a little pressure. But I threw my shoulder into it, slid the second bolt across, and stumbled back, heart pounding. I didn't wait. I grabbed my phone and dialed 911 with shaking hands. The dispatcher stayed on the line while I locked myself in the manager's office. I didn't even bother peeking outside again. When the police showed up, only about 5 minutes later, the guy was long gone. They did a sweep of the lot, checked around back, but he'd vanished. At first, I felt kind of embarrassed, like maybe I'd overreacted. Maybe he was a real delivery guy and I was just being paranoid. But then one of the officers asked if he could show me something on his phone. It was a notice the department had put out earlier that week about a man fitting the exact same description, trying to talk his way into businesses after hours by pretending to be a late delivery. 2 restaurants and a nail salon nearby had reported him. Same story every time. No package, no truck, and if anyone opened the door fully, he'd try to wedge himself inside. They hadn't caught him yet. All they knew was that nothing good was waiting on the other side of that door if you let him in. I don't know what he was after exactly. Robbery? Worse? I try not to think about it. After that, the coffee shop got a new policy. No opening any doors after close, no matter who's knocking. And me? I still work nights sometimes, but I listen a little closer now. I trust my gut when it tells me something's off, because sometimes it's not just the weird noises in the dark you have to be afraid of. It's the people who knock politely and hope you're too polite to slam the door shut. If you're drawn to tales like these, consider subscribing to Spectral for more chilling entries waiting to be uncovered. And if you have your own haunting story that you'd like featured in an upcoming compilation, we'd love to hear it. Just email us at spectralentries@gmail.com. Now, let's get back to the video. I used to think working at a bookstore would be the safest job in the world. I mean, come on. Books, quiet customers, cozy little corner shop where the biggest drama was someone getting mad that we didn't carry their favorite obscure novel. I never thought I'd have a night where I locked the door, turned around, and felt my whole body go cold. But that's exactly what happened last spring. It was a Thursday night, one of those slow, drizzly evenings where it felt like everyone else in town had better places to be. I was the only one on the closing shift, which wasn't unusual. My boss trusted me to handle it, and honestly, I liked the quiet. Gave me time to put the displays back in order and daydream about whatever book I'd half-started that week. By the time I flipped the sign to closed and counted the drawer, it was past 10. I shut off half the lights, grabbed my bag, and locked up the front door, tugging it twice just to be sure. That's when I noticed it. Across the street, just barely under the broken streetlight, was a large white van. No logos, no markings, just sitting there, idling, headlights off. First, I didn't think much of it. Maybe someone waiting to pick somebody up from one of the late-night cafes nearby. But when I stepped off the curb toward my car, I heard the low rumble of the engine, and the van rolled forward a few feet. I stopped. It stopped. I stood there a second, pretending to fumble in my bag like maybe I forgot my keys, heart thudding way too loud in my ears. I took another step toward my car, which was parked just down the block. The van crept forward again, just a little, just enough to make it clear it was me they were watching. That was all I needed. I backed slowly toward the bookstore door, fumbling with my keys so hard I dropped them. I swear it felt like slow motion, me crouching, grabbing them, jamming the right one into the lock, all while that van sat there, engine still rumbling, no headlights, no movement inside I could see. I slipped back inside, deadbolted the door, and turned off the last of the lights so it would look like nobody was there. Then I crouched behind the counter, pulled out my phone, and called 911. Tried to keep my voice steady as I explained there was a van outside, acting strange, creeping toward me every time I tried to leave. Dispatcher told me to stay put and keep the door locked. Officers were already on the way. I peeked up just once over the counter, just enough to see the van still sitting there, engine humming. And then, right as I was thinking maybe they'd bolt when they heard sirens, the van suddenly peeled off. Not fast, not reckless, just quiet. Smooth, like whoever was driving didn't want to attract too much attention. By the time the police pulled up 5 minutes later, the street was empty. I gave them a description such as it was plain white van, no plates I could see, tinted windows. Felt like nothing, like there was no way they'd find it. Except they did. About an hour later, one of the officers called me back while I was still holed up inside the store, refusing to budge until someone escorted me out. They found the van abandoned just a few blocks away, tucked into a narrow alley behind a closed-down restaurant. Inside, zip ties, rolls of duct tape, a couple of wigs, some gloves, and no sign of whoever had been driving. I still get chills thinking about it. Whoever it was, they weren't out for a casual joyride. They had a plan, and if I hadn't trusted my gut, if I just brushed it off, thinking I was being paranoid, I might have been part of that plan. After that night, my boss made sure nobody closed the store alone anymore. We got new security cameras too, ones you could check from your phone. It made everyone feel a little better. But honestly, some nights when I'm locking up and the street's too quiet, when a car drives a little too slow past the window, I still get that feeling, that cold, crawling feeling that someone's watching, waiting, and this time they might not drive away.